Perfect. Hi everybody. My name is Jo Tulloch. I am the Livestock Supply Chain Analyst at Bindaree Food Group. I would like to start by thanking our sponsors for the 2026 ICMJ Asia Tour, so MLA, AMPC, Bindaree and Fletcher International Exports. I would also like to thank Kieran and Lauren for facilitating all of our site visits in Japan, Indonesia and China, and for getting us through those countries really seamlessly. So thank you. Today I'll be discussing red meat consumption in Asian markets and highlighting some key opportunities and challenges for Australia. So to start off, I will touch on Japan and its current landscape. So the Japanese economy has been stagnant for decades with a prolonged cost of living crisis. This is driven by rising global costs, inflation, and a weak currency. Japan's population is both aging and declining, driven by high life expectancies and low birth rates. Japanese consumers like to maintain a nutritious diet and eat a variety of foods. While seafood, chicken, and pork are more commonly eaten, beef is considered a premium protein, making up around 9% of per capita meat consumption. Tourism is propping up the food service sector in Japan. So post-COVID, eating and drinking as part of work culture has declined, putting pressure on food service. Cost of living has also reduced domestic spending. So ultimately, tourism is keeping businesses afloat right now. Lamb has a small market presence in Hokkaido, so that's Japan's North Island. However, in other parts of the country, it is relatively unknown. Overall, beef consumption was at a 23-year low in 2025, reflecting the state of the economy. From a food production perspective, Japan cannot sustain its population, which means trade relationships are extremely important. Looking at our position in market, so Japan is Australia's third largest red meat export market, valued at over $3 billion. Australia holds an approximate 48% share of imported beef to Japan. Japan imports large volumes of quality grain-fed beef from Australia, and around 75% of sheep meat, mainly lamb, is imported from us. Looking at preferred primals and cuts, so Australian grain-fed beef is highly regarded in Japan. However, leaner grass-fed beef is gaining popularity. This is because it is perceived as being healthier and more sustainably produced. Loin cuts are used in high-end restaurants, whereas shoulder and round cuts are predominantly used in food service and supermarkets. Offal is a regular part of the Japanese diet, particularly beef tongue. Australia and New Zealand supply a range of hamburger chains and are the sole provider of beef meat to McDonald's Japan. Lamb is primarily eaten in a popular dish called Genghis Khan, where lamb and vegetables are cooked together on a dome-shaped skillet. Looking at distribution, the majority of beef consumed in Japan is at restaurants. The retail sector is highly sophisticated and highly fragmented. So unlike Australia, Japan has many large national supermarket chains and a huge amount of regional chains. So this creates challenges in terms of distributing product and allocating resources. Supermarkets and hypermarkets are the primary channel for purchasing fresh and prepared foods. And for anyone who doesn't know what a hypermarket is, it is a large-scale general merchandise store which sells both food, clothing, and other goods. Convenience stores represent Japan's second largest retail channel. However, there is very little beef sold through this channel. Unlike other Asian countries, e-commerce is still relatively small. Japanese consumers prefer to inspect fresh produce firsthand and seek out value offers of the day in store. Okay, opportunities and challenges. So Japanese consumers value clean, safe, natural and trusted production systems. Australia has strong and established credentials in these areas, which can be leveraged upon. Japan is a deeply relationship-based market, so in order to maintain positive trade relationships, it is important that we have consistent representation in market. Cost of living and an ageing and declining population places pressure on the red meat sector. As a category leader, the Aussie Beef Initiative should be used to drive growth. QR codes can be used to highlight food provenance, on-farm storytelling, and provide cooking information and recipes. This would increase positive associations with Australian beef and lamb and give consumers the confidence to try different cuts. Year of the Sheep 2027 provides a unique opportunity to increase lamb and mutton consumption through marketing campaigns. So when I say Year of the Sheep, I am referring to the Chinese calendar years, and this celebration is also recognised in Japan. So our challenges. Australia must be proactive in managing market pressure from Argentina and Brazil. The Brazilian cattle herd is improving quickly with better genetics. Argentina currently exports limited amounts of beef to Japan, and after 20 years of negotiations, Brazil is finalising trade agreements. These countries will be competitive on price, especially in terms of lean beef. Okay, moving over to mainland China. So, current landscape, China is Australia's second largest red meat export market. Red meat consumption continues to grow despite economic challenges. Compared with fish, pork, and poultry, beef represents a relatively small share of dietary protein. However, it is forecast to increase well above the average global and Asia regional rate. Around 65% of beef consumption occurs outside of the home. However, at-home consumption is also growing. Sheep meat consumption has steadily increased over the past decade. Australia's position, so we are recognised as a leading supplier of premium beef in China. There is strong demand for Australian chilled and grain-fed products. Australian beef has a well-established presence across Western-style food service, hot pot, and barbecue restaurants. China ranks among Australia's top 2 sheep meat export markets by volume and value. Preferred primals and cuts. So beef and beef offal are widely used in traditional slow-cooked soup, stir-fry, dumpling, and hot pot dishes. At-home cooking of Western-style cuts and formats such as steak and burgers is small but growing. Key Australian beef cuts include manufacturing meat, brisket, shin shank, silver side outside blade, chuck rolled, cube roll, and strip loin. So most Australian beef is sold through food service channels. Ready to cook and ready to eat segments are experiencing strong growth and are making beef consumption at home more attainable. Affluent consumers purchase beef from a range of channels, including supermarkets, online, and at wet markets on occasion. Modern channels are expanding rapidly, led by online platforms and discount stores. So opportunities and challenges. Firstly, we can continue to leverage Aussie beef partnerships to strengthen brand recognition, particularly while the US does not have significant presence in the market due to supply and market access challenges. And I just want to highlight the top photo there on the slide. So that photo shows an Aussie beef partnership at a city superstore in Shanghai. So when we visited MLA in Shanghai, they made mention that a lot of retailers and restaurants are approaching them, wanting to be Aussie beef partners. There is obviously a set of criteria that they must meet, but it is excellent to hear that retailers and restaurants want to stock and promote Australian beef in their stores and restaurants. We can continue to promote the use of Australian beef in a mix of local, Western and other cuisine dishes to prove its adaptability. and Australia must invest in fostering a stable and commercially viable trade relationship for the future. We must deliver consistent marble score as per each brand's promise and avoid overstating in order to affirm consumer confidence and trust. We can aim to increase the consumption of Australian lamb and mutton by capitalising on the Year of the Sheep 27 celebrations. And lastly, our major challenge, the 55% out of quota tariff and requirement to find alternative markets for around 5 months of the year. So in the case of Bindaree, and I'm sure other processors, our last shipment to China is the 29th of this month, and we won't start producing product for China until November this year. So that's around 5 months where we need to find alternate markets. And lucky last, Indonesia. So current landscape. Food plays a significant cultural role in Indonesia. Beef consumption peaks during Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr. Cost of living pressures are a key concern, particularly for the average middle class, thereby reducing discretionary spending. Indonesia has a young population with over 50% of people under 35 years of age. The government introduced a nutritious meals program to support health and well-being and create jobs for Indonesian people. Significant government budget has been set aside for 2026, around 11%, to reach 61.6 million recipients. However, there are concerns that funding is being drawn away from other sectors such as health, education, and agriculture. Our position in market. So Australia ranks first among preferred suppliers of beef across live cattle, boxed beef, and offal. Indonesia is Australia's largest beef and livestock trading partner in Southeast Asia. Around 43% of Indonesia's beef imports are sourced from us. Looking at preferred primals and cuts, so frozen grass-fed beef dominates exports by volume, so around 88% frozen versus 12% chilled. Beef is used in a wide range of traditional dishes, including rendang, bakso, and sima. Offal is a staple in Indonesian cuisine. Oxtail and tongue are some of the most popular items, and most sheep meat and mutton is more commonly eaten as opposed to lamb. Looking at distribution, in terms of food service, 95% of the market is dominated by small independent restaurants. And for retail, traditional channels make up around 88% of the market, and wet markets play a critical role with approximately 90% of Australian beef sold this way. Local supermarkets and convenience stores are gaining preference over hypermarkets, and there is growing presence of branded butcher shops, including online sales. I just want to draw everyone's attention to that bottom image, which is an ad from Red Meat Market in Jakarta. So they're currently stocking product from Thomas Foods, including their Angus Pure and Supreme brand. They also stock Sher Wagyu and Bass Straight beef from Greenham's. And lastly, opportunities and challenges. So there is a rising demand for transparency in food production, provenance, and labelling, something we can lean into. And with low per capita beef consumption, around 2.5 kilos annually, and sheep meat consumption under 100 grams per capita, there is significant growth in this majority Muslim country. Significant opportunity for growth. Continued demand. There is continued demand for highly marbled beef, indicating growing sophistication in the market. Australia is the leading live cattle exporter to Indonesia, accounting for over 70% of total exports. MLA and LiveCorp are continuing to work with partners across the whole red meat and livestock supply chain to share knowledge, build capabilities, and communicate that we are a trusted and reliable trade partner. Australia and Indonesia can mutually benefit one another, and this is a key message that should be reiterated. Challenges: Australia is faced with technical market access challenges, including import permit issues, quotas, and product restrictions. So it is important that we have strong representation and there is ongoing engagement with the Indonesian government to address this. There is also increasing competition in boxed beef, particularly from India and Brazil. That's the last of it. Thank you very much.